often like to come read by water fountains, as they seem to have a reflective effect on me, and today got me thinking about fairy tales. I'm particularly fond of this beautiful fountain in Dresden, Germany. It's called the Bath of Nymphs at Zwinger Palace, a Baroque courtyard fountain surrounded on 2 levels by many statues of nymphs and mythological gods, which evoke many ancient legends. But since tomorrow is Thanksgiving, today's episode will be about a Native American legend, and we'll revisit Germany next time. Murphy, North Carolina is a town in Cherokee County situated where the Hiwassee and Valley Rivers meet, about 360 miles from the capital of Raleigh. With a population of just under 2,000 people, this small town is home to one of the most interesting mysteries from a time before the first Thanksgiving. Believed to be centuries old, this 3-foot-tall soapstone sculpture of conjoined figures went on display at the Cherokee County Historical Museum in 2015, after decades of being hidden away in private hands since first being discovered in the 1840s in Murphy, North Carolina. The 2-headed figure with big round eyes looks like nothing else ever found in the Southeast, and are believed to depict the Moon-Eyed People, a race of small people that, according to Cherokee legend, were blinded by daylight but able to see in the moonlight. The Moon-Eyed People were said to only come out at night, described as light-skinned with big blue eyes. There are several theories as to who the legends could be about, with one popular being that they're actually the Melungeons, descendants of Welsh adventurers who supposedly landed in Alabama in 1170 AD. Now, I'm not a big fan of this theory, and believe that the term Melungeon, which first appeared in print in the 19th century, simply describes people of a mixed ancestry of European, Native American, and African ethnicity in the Southeast United States. That said, another theory is that the pygmy-sized statues may or may not be of moon-eyed people, but in fact were of what are known as little people who were said to cry tears that turned into fairy crosses or stone cross-shaped artifacts, which are also on display at the museum. I write about this extensively in my book Gods with Amnesia, and have already covered the subject of this mysterious ancient pygmy race in a prior video, so I don't want to be redundant. But according to the Cherokee legends, the Moon-Eyed People were a separate race of physically small troglodytes, found inhabiting the earth at the same moment that they were, in a time before Columbus arrived in the Americas. And while there are variations of the myth, they all seem to end in the expulsion of this mysterious race to a life lived exclusively underground. One legend finds the Moon-Eyed People driven from their home by the Creek tribe from the south. The story goes that the Creek waited until the light of the full moon became too bright for even the nocturnal cave dwellers to face, ambushed them in their time of weakness, and drove them from their homeland further into the underground caves. Another account sees the Cherokee people themselves fighting the Moon-Eyed People towards the west into what is now Tennessee, and a more recent theory speculates that the Moon-Eyed People may have sought refuge further north in what is now West Virginia.
For years, stories have been passed down about Cherokee Little People.
As legend has it, they lived underground. News 13's Rex Hodge joins us from the Western News Center.
Rex, a local author, has a new book out about these little people. Does she believe they exist?
She does. Mary Joyce's book is called Cherokee Little People Were Real, and she says there's evidence to prove it.
My giant curiosity. I mean, little people that nobody seemed to know about.
Mary Joyce started collecting notes more than a decade ago about legends of little people in our western mountains, finally putting out a book. Cherokee Little People Were Real.
They were here before the Cherokee.
She says the Cherokee came from the Great Lakes region thousands of years ago, arriving to find little people who lived underground.
Would tend their gardens at nighttime by the moonlight, and originally the Cherokee called them the Moon People.
And she says the Cherokee adopted them. Joyce bases much of her book on the recollections of two men who grew up hearing Little People stories, claiming to have seen evidence, including tunnels near older buildings at Western Carolina University, like the McKee Building, built in the 30s.
And these tunnels, I guess, were like a network.
And they do really believe that these things do exist, and they're only about 2 feet tall when they're fully grown.
Cherokee history lecturer Freeman Owl has spoken to Eastman's classes about the Little People. He says many Cherokee believe in them and their existence.
Reporting live tonight from the Western News Center, Rex Hodge, News 13.
The Cherokees said that when they moved into these southern Appalachian mountains, they were already a race of people here. And they were short, white, flat-faced, and blue-eyed. They were so blue-eyed that they couldn't see to work in the sunshine. So they'd come out of an evening and night to do their work. And so the Cherokees called them the Moon-eyed people. Now, we know that there's an Indian village down there because there was a small mound where they had the council house, supposedly where these were kept, to show the subsequent generations, the people that they displaced by the Cherokees. Now, we know that the Moon-eyed people lived down there, or pretty sure they did, because in their oral tradition, they said that they lived at where they were afraid to cross the creek, which we think would have been Valley River because it was smaller than Hiwassee. And the reason that they were afraid to cross the creek was because of the big red leech. And that universally accepted Cherokee myth and legend is about the big red leech hole down there. That's in all their oral traditions. Now, the question is, where did they come from?
The concept of a subterranean people living in the Americas strikes up similarities to another story that is also found in my books and included in a prior video, and that is of the Hopi Indians, who themselves claim to have emerged from the inside of the earth rather than on ships from either Europe or Asia or even the North, as suggested by mainstream anthropologists. Unfortunately, deep exploration of most cave systems, especially in the Grand Canyon, is strictly forbidden, as is genetic testing on any ancient remains found in North America. And so the myths and legends remain a mystery, and nothing is allowed except the force-fed, genetically debunked, politically motivated propaganda known as the Out of Africa hypothesis, which I'm confident will go down in history as an even bigger hoax than the fraud known as the Piltdown Man, where a baboon's jaw was glued to a human cranium and touted as the missing link by the British Museum for the first half of the 20th century. Talk about a real fairy tale. My name is Robert Sepper. I'm an anthropologist. Please consider reading my published work on Amazon. Thank you to those who support me on Patreon. There should be a link below. Kindly share these videos and hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell for updates. Please leave me your thoughts in the comment section. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope to see you again soon.